Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. Tonight is Wednesday, August 27th, 2025. This is the Beverly Public School Committee. This is our Welcome Back to School Committee of the Whole meeting, and the time is 7 p.m. We are meeting in person, and we thank our friends at BevCam for broadcasting and streaming our meeting to make it available more broadly to the public. Our first order of business, now that I've called us to order, is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to ask Dr. Silva to lead us in the pledge this evening. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Just for a quick roll call, we do have one member of our cabinet joining us remotely. Dr. Andre Morgan is joining us. And then Peter Cushing and I are on the Zoom to facilitate the meeting with BevCam. Going around the room, we have Mayor Cahill.
Here.
Jeffrey Silva.
Here.
Lorinda Visnick. Here. Karen Robinson.
Here.
Canann Mackenzie DeFranza.
Here.
And I'm Rachel Abel. We are also joined by a candidate in the audience, and that's Lindsay Ducharme. In the back of the room, we have Bethany Splansky, Emma Puglisi, Aaron Brown. Our executive assistant, Donna Bergeron, is with us this evening, as well as, of course, Peter Cushing. For the committee work tonight, we have 4 sets of open meeting records to approve. Those items are the joint council meeting record, where we had a joint council with our city council colleagues on May 7th. Is there a motion to approve that meeting record?
Can we approve them all at once or no? Just a thought.
I
Yeah.
would second that.
Okay, as a group, so these are A, B, C, and D, so that's May 7th, May 28th, which is a regular committee of the whole meeting, June 20th, also committee of the whole, and August 20th, committee of the whole retreat meeting. So as a collection,
Yep, that's my motion. Thanks.
Mayor Cahill is approving those. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Visnick. Were there any edits or corrections to these meeting records? I think they've been around for a while and we've had a lot of time to review. I'm not seeing any edits. Are we ready to vote? We're in person this evening. All those in favor? 6-0. Thank you so much. Next, we have items by consensus. These we also handle as a group, letters A through F. These are warrants in the various amounts as listed on the agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Visnick.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Mackenzie DeFranza. Generally, we don't have any discussion, but I will pause to see if there were any questions about our warrants. All those in favor of approving the warrants? 6-0, thank you. Okay, and without further ado, in his first official on BevCam school committee meeting, we have Dr. Peter J. Cushing joining us, and I will turn the floor over to you.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Madam President and members of the school committee. So today we had our district launch day. We started off with all of our faculty and staff in the auditorium at Beverly High School, where we had some great words on empathy and kindness from Madam President. We had some great words also from Mayor Mike Cahill. And I was able to address the staff as a whole for the first time. I was really pleased to see everybody so energized as they entered the auditorium. We provided breakfast and drinks. And my remarks were really focused on welcoming our new staff, really making sure that people understood the great safety and security features that have been installed in our schools, understanding the I Love You Guys standard response protocol at a very high level that is covered more detailed in our ArcsEd training suite for individuals to go through during the start of school. I gave a little bit of background on myself, my kids, who I am as a person, and why I see education as being so fundamentally critical. I also asked people to really be guardians of the profession of education, as it does seem to be under assault by so many places at this time. I used a quote. I'm not usually a quote person, but I used a quote from A League of Their Own, where Jimmy Duggan, Tom Hanks' character, says, "It's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. The hard is what makes it great." About how educating our youth, especially kids coming back from summer. Saw many of those last night as my daughter was being dropped off at cheer practice, and saying, "You guys so excited to go back?" as our children headed back today. And they were all like, "No!" So to be able to corral the students, bring them back, and put them on target for learning is really an important task. And it's not necessarily easy, especially when you consider the broad spectrum of our students, from our high-performing students to students with disabilities, socioeconomic challenges, and others that need the love, tenderness, and care of all of our educators, all of our cafeteria workers, custodians, and again, the whole spectrum of employees. I then put up and quickly reviewed our mission and the Beverly High School vision of a graduate, and talked to the entire staff about how it's really a K-12 responsibility, that the vision of the graduate isn't just a four-year responsibility, it's a holistic responsibility, even going back, as I just said, K-12, but pre-K-12, and making sure that we're carrying through for all of our students, and that mission and responsibility for owning that graduate and that vision of a graduate is really critical. And then I closed with, as I'm sure many people have seen in my weekly memos, or if you've gotten my voice messages, it's a great day to be a Panther. And really said to our elementary staff that, I mean, no disrespect to being a beaver or a star or an owl or anything else that the elementary schools might be, but as we look at our mission and vision of graduating Panthers, it's really focused on that. And I think my last statement was, we'll be the Panther coming out of the darkness to establish trust and to establish a strong sense of purpose within our community, and the value of our education, and to be a flagship district across the state. It was a really great morning, and then myself and Ms. Brown headed out to a few schools today, and we'll head to more tomorrow. The overall schedule today was focused on building-based. Between the 2 days, there's 3 hours of prep time for teachers to set up their classrooms and 45 minutes depending on the day. Most schools have the 3 hours tomorrow. The high school and Ayers chose to have it today, so we offered flexibility within a district-wide framework for how the days should look, but wanted to give principals that flexibility. So I hope in my weekly memo this week and next week to have lots of great first day pictures. I've got some pictures of our field hockey team, our football team. I'm still awaiting some from other teams to really make sure that we're putting those out there. Some pictures from band camp as well from last week. So really want to make sure that we're publishing the great things that our students are starting to do as they return to our campuses. And I also just want to publicly thank the members of the senior leadership team. In particular, though, Ellen and Donna, who were helping hand out T-shirts this morning, with Emma, Bethany, Aaron, and am I forgetting anybody? So I always hate to single people out and then forget someone. It was a slight moment of panic when I read through, I think it was our 35 new hires, to make sure that I actually had everybody. But overall, I think today was a great way to kick off our 2025-2026 academic year.
Great. Are there any questions from the committee on the first item? Okay, and then for your next item, entry plan. are we going to look at that tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I've provided a copy at everyone's table. Last week during our retreat, some suggested edits were made. I have made all of those edits and look for final feedback. I will share a version, unfortunately, right now. Just give me a second as I have many tabs open.
I was going to say, I like the new feature in the operating system I use where you can just open another copy of the browser and start fresh tabs while still leaving everything open. Sometimes it's overwhelming.
I have to leave the meeting and re-enter.
Sure, I'll let you
to
back
a
in.
New computer.
No worries.
You should put your trash out tomorrow before 7 a.m.
Mine was collected midday today,
But I gotta
Ryle
keep
said.
waiting. What's that, Rita?
I did. I clicked admit, but then you disappeared. Oh, there you are. Okay. No, my trash was picked up midday today. Usually it's on Monday, but Wednesday afternoon, close enough.
Yeah, you're Friday.
Right. Apologize, a summer away from Zoom has made me a little bit rusty. All right, so an entry plan is an expectation of all new superintendents who are participating in the Massachusetts NISIP program through the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents. NISIP stands for New Superintendent Induction Program. About 90% of new superintendents enroll and take part in this multi-part course offering with a cohort. We're currently cohort 16, and there are 25 members of that cohort of new superintendents in the state. It's a 3-year program that will guide and support new superintendents through the first 3 years of their superintendency, with the opportunity to continue with MASS in some fashion of support thereafter for affinity groups. So the purpose of the I plan to, just so you know, go fairly faster, just for the fact of everyone's seen this already. But the purpose is to gather clear information, identify the district's positives, understand the district's challenges, and establish foundational relationships within the community. So as I mentioned last week during our retreat, have been out in the community already. Some of you may have seen me with my youngest daughter in a backpack at the Hannah Bowen scooping of ice cream during homecoming week, while my other 2 children were somewhere about Lynch Park having a great time. So that's, critical. So my core values, just want to address those real quick. So operating with integrity and stakeholder communications, prioritizing teaching and learning in all forms as crucial, while recognizing the importance of the whole student experience. So understanding that while the classroom is a primary mode of instruction for many students, for so many other students as well, it may be the fields, the track, the court, the ice rink, or the stage, the music room, the band room, fill in the blank of all the places that our students learn from their teachers, from their leaders, and from their peers. Reinforcing high academic and social expectations for all students, collaborating with stakeholders to create a vision for Beverly's future as we enter the last year of our district improvement plan. It is really fundamentally critical that not only am I gathering information as part of my entry plan, but to strategically plan for the next 3 to 5 years of where the Beverly Public Schools wants to go. Who is the district we are, and what is the district that we aspire to be? And how do we aspire to support our youth as they grow and move forward? And then finally, acting to create a culture that actively supports a feeling of belonging and respect for all, where right now so many of our students are under attack, it feels, from forces outside of Massachusetts and possibly even forces inside of Massachusetts. We need to make sure that we are putting ourselves in harm's way as leaders, that we are defending our students, that we are standing up for our Black and brown students, our students of low socioeconomic status, our students with who are gender nonconforming, our students of LGBTQIA status. Wherever our students are, we need to be there to defend and support them. Similar to how I answered a great question previously in this room during my interview process. So the phase 1 is building relationships. So I've extended that to September 30th, just as we're rapidly approaching August 31st. I've met with about 70 people thus far. That's teachers, paraprofessional, our mechanics, and city leaders, counselors, most of the school committee, and so many other people across the spectrum of Beverly. Phase 2 is understanding the organization and building frameworks. So understanding the systems and structures that we need to put in place to really support the next phase of development for the district. So looking at our special education budgets and available in-district services, really reviewing and analyzing student data, a comprehensive facility review, meeting with more parent groups and booster organizations, and then demonstrating commitment to equity through active listening, respectful engagement, and transparency and communication. So that's my goal, all right? And make sure that we're looking at our current programs, policies, practices related to diversity, belonging, inclusion, and equity, and making sure that I'm making recommendations to our policy arm to improve and expand on policy wherever it may be. And then finally, sustaining the work and looking ahead from February 1st to June 30th. So establishing curriculum learning walks, we've already had extensive discussions on that. Having chats with parents and caregivers and others to really understand ideas, impressions on strengths and opportunities to grow. Regular meetings with city leadership, superintendent advisory councils with students, curriculum review working groups, and being present in the schools with students and staff. It's my plan. I can't remember if I mentioned this last week, but it is my plan to be in a school from start to finish at least once a week, to be able to see how everything functions and rotate through the schools. Obviously, over a 5-day week, I will be there be in schools significantly more than one, but I want to dedicate a full day to being in classrooms, being in cafeterias, being in gymnasiums, being out at dismissal and arrival, and making sure that I'm fully seeing and understanding how schools are operating. Maybe even stepping into the lunch line and serving food and getting to know students that way. So that is a quick overview of the entry plan. I know we've discussed it previously. I'm happy to take any feedback that you have or any other changes, but I really appreciated the suggestions and input that were provided during our retreat.
Ms. Robinson, and then Dr. Mackenzie DeFranza.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing this with all of us and everybody. So just in conversations I've had with people about having been able to meet with you, and told them that I had a nice meeting with you, and they've said that the people in the public have just asked if they could meet with you as well, and if I'm guessing yes, but how do they go about doing that?
So in the next few weeks, I'm going to structure my schedule, because one of the things, Member Robinson, that I probably should have done prior to putting out the 15-minute and hour-long for various members of the leadership teams and other things like that have blocked off time for other work. I don't want to say actual work, but other work. Donna's smiling because it's been a definite sprint and marathon at the same time. But I will be putting out time slots for individuals. I am going to be looking for people to hopefully meet as groups, just because I've already met with CPAC. I do have the PTOs that I need to respond to. I do have an email from CPAC to meet again. And so while I haven't been able to respond to that email, I will be responding, reaching out to them, setting up those meetings. I'll offer opportunities for individual, but in a district of 4,700 students, for me to offer a half an hour to an hour might be not sustainable. So as much as I want to. And what I will also say is that I'm going to be at events. And so, you know, when one of 3 kids may be tugging at me, I appreciate the members of Beverly's flexibility as I shoo them away or give them $5 to go to the concession stand. But I will be at events. I will be at things. And people can also meet with me then, talk to me, have those quick conversations. But I will be putting out in my memo for people to have the opportunity to meet with me. Yep.
Dr. Mackenzie DeFranza.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Cushing, for walking us through that. I actually appreciate the timing of some of this because it looks as though you will have met with a lot of the departments and been looking at data before the spring when budget conversations happen. So I really like seeing that. I do have a question. It's like a tiny nitpicky thing
all right.
about how we include students. I had this question last year, but for the advisory council where students are involved, I sometimes worry that the process means that you will get the same type of student to apply. And I'm wondering how we can ensure that students who are having a wonderful time and those who are maybe slightly disengaged get to give feedback. Often when we use a application process and make it very stringent, the students who are already on the margins of being disengaged are not inclined to want to fill out paperwork to then be a part of a council. So that's just my thought on that. I don't know the process, but I'm wondering if you haven't had time to think about the process, how we might get students who are maybe not inclined to share their opinion to not have too many hurdles to be able to do that.
Can I share a quick vignette?
Sure.
So in 2010, the superintendent of the district that I was working in, where I was a vice principal, asked me to take over. It was called Freshman Academy. It was going to be a 4-day orientation, but the planning for the person who had been running it just hadn't moved forward the way that the superintendent wanted to. And she wanted me to partner with this individual who was doing the best that they could, in all honesty. They had a lot of other things on their plate. So I was asked to really help out. And when I first stepped in, the list of kids was a who's who of, 90% or better for grades and all National Honor Society members. And my view was, well, the kids who are going to come to us for freshman orientation are not all earning over a 90 and are not all going to be National Honor Society. So I blew the doors open. And my feeling is that I knew a lot of the kids and I knew their innate qualities. And as someone who himself never was in the National Honor Society, I can honestly say that those students bring a lot to the table. And those students who may be struggling still bring a lot to the table. Just because they may not be performing well in academics or whatever, I want to hear their voices. I want to hear kids tell me what their experiences are, no matter who they are. So one actual thing that is not on the entry plan, but the Duxbury superintendent had talked about it during a recent meeting, was she sits down and she meets with and interviews every single senior for 5 to 10 minutes. All right. And the way she talked about those conversations was so enriching that that's something that I'm going to be looking to do. I'm going to be looking to speak to our assistant principals. I think by being in schools, by being in cafeterias, by being in spaces that students are in, I'll be able to naturally form and build relationships that I think has been a hallmark of my career. So I really do actually appreciate you bringing that up. And I'll make a small tweak to make sure that it clearly brings forward that this is not just for some students who fill out an application, that feedback to their superintendent should be all. And I do want to be clear, like, I am their superintendent. They're not necessarily my students, but I am here to serve them. I'm here to serve our teachers and here to help us all move forward. Yep.
Ms. Bisnick.
Dr. Kushing, if I can add to your comments, just as a follow-up to some of the conversations we've been having, and I think what Dr. McKenzie DeFranza's question may do a deeper dive into it, if you'll allow me for just a couple of seconds.
Absolutely.
Everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
And so Dr. McKenzie DeFranza, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the deeper question is how do we make sure that the student voices that are included are diverse voices and that really include the various backgrounds of students. And one of the things that perhaps will be important in that regard is to be intentional about students who are asked to be a part of it, if you will. You know, I think from an equity, I know from an equity standpoint, the whole issues around belonging and inclusion are very important, so students feel like they're belonged, that they feel like they belong and that they're included in some way, shape, or form, then they're more apt to get engaged in it. And so perhaps the pathway, which is reflected in one of Dr. Cushing's entry plan bullet points, is to really help give all students a why to why their voices matters. And so whether that is having a table during lunch where, you know, students can ask questions and we begin to market a little more widely student engagement and involvement and the capacity to one student voice, or maybe we do student community conversations, or maybe we take another measure to really reach out to diverse students so that the input that's given to Dr. Kushing is reflective of every student and background and experience and not just isolated in one group, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan. And Ms. Bisnick.
First thing is just maybe a typo, but maybe a misunderstanding. In the phase 2,
Yes.
where you're working very diligently to meet with everybody and anybody, we actually do not have one overarching athletic booster group. So each entity has its own booster group. So that's going to be a lot of meetings, boosters. I don't know, whatever. I think the S should be on the end of groups, just for your expectation. It would maybe be kind of cool if we had one, but we don't. So
I appreciate that, and I think it is a typo of boosters, and I'll delete that. and
I
move it
wasn't
to
sure how
groups.
to read
Yep,
that,
my
but I just
apologies.
wanted to make sure you understood that we are not a one group. Everybody is off doing their own thing.
Yep.
And we have a policy that says that every single one of them that wants to do fundraising has to submit something to you and you have to approve it. So welcome. The other
It was a
thing
great car wash to approve.
this past weekend, yeah. So the other thing I wanted to just kind of maybe talk about was we talked about this in our retreat, especially as people continue to readjust after our strike, is the fact that our school committee members will be often welcomed on the learning walks or maybe some other kind of walk. I'm not sure if those are going to be differentiated, but I'm not sure who here should talk to that, but the fact that we are not normally in the classroom and why we're not in the classroom, but this will be an opportunity for the school committee, if our regular day jobs afford us the opportunity, to go on learning walks with the school leadership.
Yeah.
And that we used to do that before. I think a lot of good conversation happened in the retreat, and I don't want to disparage anybody, but I don't think anyone is reading our meeting minutes and would know that we talked about that. So I just want to talk about it on camera tonight so people understand that we used to do that before COVID, and then it fell off the face of the earth like a lot of things did, and now it's being reinstituted, and however you envision that to be inclusionary of the elected school committee members.
So generally speaking, the vision for that is to make sure that one or two, and that we are able to plan long enough out so that you can hold those days as separate from other work or other responsibilities. And it is really critical, I think, for the governing body to be able to enter schools in a very structured manner with the learning walk protocol that we will be using. Erin will be helping to lead that with me. But it is really a critical piece so that you as the governing body can see the curriculums that you've discussed with Dr. Flaherty, to see the work that has been done over the last few years, and to see how things are going in the classroom, so that then not only can you govern the district better, and more in a more informed manner, I should say. So I apologize for any misstep there, but to also be able to speak to your constituents about specifically what your overall impressions, and while not speaking specifically about anything during a learning walk, the overall impressions and how we move a district forward. So you would be one or two members of a larger team of teachers, hopefully some paraprofessionals, and principals, assistant principals, or curriculum leaders. So a team of anywhere between 8 and 13. I think I may have said last week 9 and 14. So somewhere in that range of people, which can sometimes be overwhelming when you walk into a classroom, but it's really critical to be able to go in, view instruction, see how teachers are working, make sure that they're given ample lead time so it's not just a shock to their systems. And it's about being able to make well-informed decisions and understand how instruction is happening in classrooms. And Erin, would you like to add anything to that?
Dr. Mackenzie DeFranza.
Just adding one more thing, like, as we talked about, even just being clear on process, because not everyone watching understands all these pieces, but we also, to your point, we're thinking about how many persons per walk, because we have to be thinking about not establishing a quorum of the school committee. So if you don't see more than 2 people at a time, that's intentional. And so even our subcommittees have to be thinking about that as we do these walks. So we definitely are looking forward to that, but we will be capping the number of people per walk intentionally to make sure we stay within our guidelines to not establish a quorum by accident. So.
Thank you for that point of information. Okay, are there any other questions about the entry plan? With these corrections, we will have this as part of the official meeting records for tonight. And is this going to be published on the district website, or are you
will
still
be.
working with?
No, it will be published. It'll look a little bit different. The content won't change, but it will be branded. And as you may have seen with various PowerPoints and memos that I'm publishing, I'm really trying to make sure that we have a brand pushed forward. Exactly. So really trying to get behind the black and orange and to make sure that we are almost building a style guide as we go for the marketing of our district moving forward.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Okay, for the next agenda item, the chair is reporting out that we did meet in a retreat-style committee of the whole last Wednesday evening. I thank everyone for their participation. I thank Dr. Kushing for bringing the entry plan for us to get a first look, as well as the roles and responsibilities. And for tonight's agenda, I'm bringing back the Beverly School Committee and Superintendent operating protocols. I invited everyone last week to consider whether we had edits to make before we asked Dr. Kushing to join us in signing for the balance of this term. According to my notes and my scribbles on the protocol, I sent out a track changes version where we had some edits. I don't know if anyone had more reflection between last week's meeting and tonight, or if we're ready to vote on this new version so that we can send it around for signature.
I would
Visnick?
like to make a motion that we accept it as edited, as presented, I guess, maybe is a better word.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Are there any other comments, questions? If we're ready to vote, all those in favor of making this our new operating protocols? We have 6. And the motion passes. I will coordinate with Ms. Bergeron about sending that around for signature. And I should have checked with Dr. Kushing. I assume you're okay with this. You're a non-voting member, but obviously you're going to be signing this, so thank you so much. Okay. Moving right along, we have a lot of policy work to sort of get reestablished on. As we finished up last year, we had a few items that were coming back. We also have a first reading, so I think this section B are all for first readings. I want to thank Ms. Bergeron for highlighting the differences between the MASC versions and our own versions for these. This is BGF, which is the suspension of policies. I just want to highlight that the policy about suspending policies is, of course, governed by actual law and contract. So this is just policies that exist that are not governed by law or contract. So that's a short policy about requiring a 2/3 vote of the school committee. We also have BHC, which is the school committee / staff communications. This outlines how the school committee maintains open channels of communication between itself and the staff, however, recognizes the role of the superintendent in those. There are some changes to consider that are suggested by MASC. We'll be taking this up again at our September 10th meeting, so please do afford yourself the opportunity to look at those suggested edits from MASC and consider whether they belong or don't belong, or if we have alternate suggestions. Next, BIA. This is the new school committee member orientation. I think we're highlighting here that we had made an effort to just say committee throughout our policies in our last cleanup. The difference with MASC is they do say school committee for clarity, and we can consider that next time. And the same for the BIBA, which is the school committee conferences, conventions, and workshops. So again, first reading, we will see these again September 10th for a vote, to vote them for changes or to vote them as reviewed. Next, our Finance and Facilities Subcommittee had 3 items that they've presented to us once before, and they are here again tonight for our second reading and decision. Ms. Visnick, I don't know if you wanted to speak to these 3 items?
Very quickly, the first policy in front of us from FNF came out a while ago. As you said, we've been on break for a little bit. EEAG. The one change is similar to removing school committee to just the committee. We've been working on changing parents to guardians and caregivers. And then the item 4 on your track changes version of this policy is an item from an itemized list from MASC, and it speaks to I think it's very important why FNF voted it out, is that if in the situations where we have non-school employee drivers and or passengers, they must be covered with a Corey check. So to be very clear, that bullet comes to us from MASC. And it's not currently, well, it wasn't. It is now. We added it. So that's really what we're voting on, those 2 changes, changing parents to guardians and caregivers, and then adding the MASC bullet about Corey checks.
Mayor Cahill?
Is the thought that we might vote on this tonight?
This is our second reading.
Then I'm going to ask a question that I don't think can be handled here. So
Okay.
maybe we shouldn't vote on it tonight, but it seems to me there needs to be language stating that in the event of the use of private vehicles, there be no one-to-one adult to child in a vehicle. I'm not sure how, I guess I'm not sure where our policies are on that, but the protecting both staff and the child. There's got to be a different structure to any kind of private transportation than that.
Ms. Abel cannot, may we pull in Emma?
We may, thank you.
I just wanted to bring into the conversation that there are instances where we employ contracted service providers, especially for like the transportation of special education or homeless students to placements outside of the district or from residences outside of the district into the district, that do sometimes show up as one-to-one, right? One student, one adult. Thus, even more the importance of the Corey check, absolutely. But to bring in like a monitor so that there would be 2 adults would have significant financial consequence. While my understanding is the law requires the Corey check, there might be other opportunities such as, asking for fingerprinting. Again, that might make, there might be other things that we might be able to do. I completely understand that desire. Operationally and financially, there might be some additional concerns and questions.
Ms. Abel?
Yes, Ms. Wisnick?
So I think this is like a worst case scenario, right? This is for whatever reason, we don't have a bus and we need to get a group of children somewhere for some purpose. And by virtue of the fact that we're saying there are these full 4 conditions that must be met, I very much appreciate your statement. I don't think it quite falls under what you're saying, Emma, because it would be like, let's say one of my children was on a sports team and I'm going to take a carload full of soccer players to Masco to play a game because the bus broke down or something. So I'm not going to have a monitor in that situation, right? This is like an emergency. This should only happen in emergencies. And by emergency, I don't mean that somebody got in a car accident and the police are responding, but rather for whatever reason, we don't have bus transportation. And so to some extent, this should never happen. And it would take a lot of forethought to say, okay, we're picking parents who have a Corey on file. Are they even available to do that? So I guess this is my way of saying I very much appreciate your comment, Mayor Mike, and I make the same distinction in the basketball program when I was in that role. And I don't think it's ever going to come to this. That said, I'm happy to table this one, and maybe we add another bullet that says that's our goal, right? It should never be the case that you're alone with a child that's not yours in a vehicle. I'm looking at people around the table who also have children who participate in sports and extracurriculars, which is all of you.
Dr. Mackenzie DeFranza.
Thank you for that, with my many children. I do have another nuance to ask about, though. Sometimes there are instances with sports and other types of things where a parent can say, but this is a person, neighbor, best friend, family member, who can be responsible for my child. And I'm not sure how this relates if they're not an actual relative of the child. So let's say the parent says, yes, but, her best friend, that mom can take them to the game, and
So like a waiver.
sometimes there's, I've seen instances where you can actually give permission and it's in the file and there's some kind of waiver that the parent signs. I don't know if we need to go to the lengths of mentioning that here, where there's a parent who essentially is vouching for that adult. I don't know how we would do that in the event that we're authorizing people who can pick up children.
We do have a procedure to do that in our schools, right? I'm looking at the administrators at the back table. I can sign something that says, go ahead and release my child to some other parent. Yes?
Okay, Mayor Cahill.
Sure. I think in the instance of giving permission for your child to go home from school with somebody different, I think it's very different than being transported to or from an official school activity. So there certainly are legal and liability issues that are, you know what? Let's talk about this at another meeting, because my understanding is, once school ends and you're headed home, you're, no longer in the school's care. But you are going to and from an athletic event, JROTC,
Recital.
the UN, the mock UN, any number of things. And so they're different in terms of legalities and liabilities. I think that's the case, but I wouldn't want to try to speak with so much authority and be wrong. But, there's certainly a lot there. As I read bullets 3 and 4 here, it doesn't sound to me just kind of an emergency last-minute thing. It almost looks like a structural accommodation for an expectation that transportation may not be available for certain things. So I do have a lot of real concerns about how we put on paper something that's supposed to work in every instance and that will be sure to keep kids safe and keep our employees safe in the same space at the same time.
And so would you be taking this to the city's legal counsel?
Oh, gosh.
You can't, you may not ask us to table this without taking this action item. How's that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I don't know that it's a city's legal counsel, if not a school, check in, with legal, but I'm happy to follow up with the superintendent and see with whom we need to put this, Also, is there anything from MASC on this? Is there anything from MASS? What are some other best practices around, protections of, first and foremost, children, and also for not being in the wrong situation, adults?
Dr. Kushing.
The other question that I have, in previous experiences, this has been a policy really attributed to staff. So I'd like to reach out to MASC to get further, as well as reach out to legal, because I've seen this policy, especially on the 100,000 to 300,000. I've also seen a line in here where a driver needs to submit a picture of their most recent inspection sticker to make sure that the vehicle has been inspected, is currently not driving around with a red R or anything else. So there are a couple other things that I just want to look into here.
So we didn't even make a motion for this one, right?
No, so we will hold EEAG for another meeting, and I appreciate Mayor Cahill and the superintendent following up on some of those items.
Whew, okay, our next one, EEAJ. This policy has been in place for a long time, and I personally think that there's not somewhat of a contradiction in the sense that in the first paragraph, item 3, drivers who arrive early and need to keep warm will be provided an indoor waiting area. Going to your point, Dr. Kushing, about how secure our schools are, I'm not sure we want to keep that bullet, so just bring everybody's attention to that. And that somewhat contradicts with item 2 in the exceptions. We wouldn't have to offer people an indoor spot with this exception that for passenger safety, such as extreme weather, we would allow people to continue to idle in traffic. So I feel like we could get rid of item 3 out of the first set of itemized conditions based on the fact that we have exception number 2. So although this came out of F&F like this with no changes, it's been on our books this way for a while. in rereading it myself, I just want to bring that to the table for discussion. Okay, that look from Miss Abel is that she wants a motion. So I would like to make a motion that we remove item 3, that drivers who arrive early and need to keep warm will be provided an indoor waiting area.
Second.
Thank you. And to approve the rest as written? Is that the full motion?
Yes.
Is that your second, Ms. Robinson? Okay.
Yes.
Mayor Cahill.
I just want to say yes, but I'm not sure I can. What is the downside of one of our own drivers coming into the building if they're here before pickup by X amount of time and getting out of the weather? That's one. And the second, we might want to amend this to include our EVs, because we shouldn't be draining our batteries either when they get there early and as opposed to going inside or getting into a space that's more climate controlled. We could pick that one up later. I guess
No, I don't know that I did read this today with that mindset of knowing that we're converting more and more to electric buses. I think the term idling is generic enough that it could also apply to the EV vehicles. I don't know that I think this can apply to them, and they too should not be idling, running down their battery,
They should not be idly running down their battery.
whatever. So I think, to go to your first point, if we read this, it is not just talking about our bus drivers. It's talking about whoever is in the line to do rolling pickup. And I would assert to you that the number of cars waiting to do rolling pickup is far greater, especially on a rainy or a snowy day. And so I want you to, no, you don't think so?
Well, we don't have control over that. And even the language here doesn't suggest we do. It's school bus drivers. It doesn't talk about, a parent or a guardian or somebody else who's waiting. Because we can't.
I wish you to read the first paragraph.
No, I understand it.
So I think that
Oh, resident, all right.
we are attempting to, in fact, encourage adults
I
who are...
rescind all my potential objections. I'm on board, sorry.
Okay. Dr. Mackenzie DeFranza.
All right, maybe there's a solution. So I did read it as residents and bus drivers, but perhaps what might make you feel better is if we say bus drivers who arrive early. Is that the spirit of what you mean, that if it's an employee who's early, that they can in fact access an indoor area, but we're not making that open to the general public? Does that sound right?
I like that.
Could
And
we
what-
amend and say bus drivers, so we're clear on which drivers?
Right, because I don't want, on a terrible day, we know that there are cars enough in that rolling line, depending on which school you're in, that it goes out onto the street. I don't want all those people getting out of their vehicles and ringing the bell to go into a school. That's my point about bullet 3. But yes, may I
So
change
can
my
I offer a
amendment?
friendly amendment
Yes.
to that? Or-
How about,
Sure.
should I withdraw? What is our easiest
Yeah, just
thing?
withdraw and say it again.
Robert, rule person. All right, I withdraw my motion, my amendment.
Yes. And you're making a new motion to
That-
insert.
To add the word bus to item 3. Bus drivers who arrive early and need to keep warm will be provided an indoor waiting area.
And Ms. Robinson.
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Kushing.
Could I offer a friendly amendment?
Sure.
Even though I'm not a voting member?
Yeah.
Bus/van.
Oh, I had written that and I scratched out van because they didn't mention it, but
How about, yeah, well, because we use contracted services.
School transportation, fleet vehicles, and. School transportation, fleet vehicles, and contracted, you can help with that language, Emma?
School transportation sounds encompassing.
Yeah. School transportation vehicle?
Drivers.
School transportation drivers?
Okay.
That's a friendly amendment that I will happily accept.
Okay, Ms.
So
Robinson.
restating my amendment, I wish to add to the beginning of item 3 on the first bulleted list, school transportation vehicle drivers.
Okay. And Ms. Robinson, your
Second.
practice makes progress. Okay. Are there any other comments? We have a motion and a second to amend bullet item 3 and keep the rest as reviewed. All those in favor? 6-0.
Okay, this is the last one, people. Food service, EF. The changes to this policy happened a while ago, and it's really pretty generic, and I think most of us know, right now, every child's first meal is free. And so we're not talking about free, we continue to talk about free and reduced, and we talk about this National School Lunch Program in SLP, because at some point in time, it may change. It will be an unfortunate change, in my humble opinion, but it may change that we go back to the differentiation and that it's not all children who receive a meal for free. So we've left the language in here so that if ever that day comes that we roll back to children with the means needing to pay for their meals, and some children getting a reduced price lunch and others getting a free lunch, that this policy would still apply.
I'd like to make a motion to mark this one as reviewed.
Thank you. Second.
Thank you, Ms. Visnick. Are there any comments or questions? All those in favor of marking as reviewed? 6-0. Thank you.
Before we move away, oh no, I'm sorry. Well, in the retreat, we talked about the fact that you're doing some policy work. And so at some point in time, I need to know, as the policy chair, if the policy committee needs to reconvene and talk about bringing forward more things with changes. So I don't know where you are with that work. Maybe we put that on the next meeting's agenda.
Okay,
Okay, thanks.
sounds like a plan. And then curriculum instruction is bringing for a first reading, ADC.
What just happened with this? The tobacco one?
We're on it. She's introducing it.
ADC.
I'm done.
Curriculum instructions, yeah, I just called this one out. So
I
this is
was
a first reading, and what has been highlighted by Ms. Bergeron is the difference between the MASC recommended and our current policy. So this is for consideration for our September 10th meeting where we have a second vote. Mayor Cahill.
Simple one?
Okay.
Strike one of the any's?
Oh, yes. Thanks. Okay, so please, before our next meeting, have a look at that and consider it so that we can vote. Dr. Kushing.
My apologies. Would you like suggestions now, or is this considered just an introduction, or is this the first reading and then the second reading? Because if we make suggestions on the second reading, then it has to come back again for another second reading. I just want to make sure that I'm following our process.
We accept suggestions at our second reading and vote it through, but
Okay.
we can also discuss it now.
Okay, I just have two on this. One is, first is a question, has any work been done, and I apologize for not remembering off the top of my head, on nicotine-free generation for the city of Beverly?
So I can speak, so I've been participating in the Be Healthy Beverly, which is a collaboration inside the community between our health department, our school department, and other health groups. That is cessation and those types of programs is part of the discussion, but I don't think that nicotine-free generation is specifically something that I recall us talking about.
Okay. For our next meeting, I may offer a brief presentation on that and just, the weight of the public schools, if the committee would be open to that. The other two suggestions that I just wanted to make on this is there's no mention of if a person is prescribed nicotine cessation devices. So it says use of any product made or derived from tobacco or containing nicotine. And unless I missed it, just want to make sure that there's a mechanism for those people who may be prescribed something for cessation. And then number two, sorry, I'm just trying to find it quickly. A staff member determined, and this is subject to disciplinary action. And I would offer will be referred to their immediate supervisor for that progressive discipline to move forward. And then the third thing, just reading it quickly here, is that disciplinary action rarely helps students to overcome addictions. And so my suggestion might be, I think it's second step, but I'm blanking on it. It's not second step. I apologize. There are two specific nicotine cessation programs out there, one through Mass General, and I'm blanking on the other one. So my feeling would be, and I'm happy to discuss this further, I know this is all on the spot, but a student determined to be in violation of this policy will be enrolled in a nicotine diversion.
So based on my experience with Be Healthy Beverly, we're tightly affiliated with the PASS program through the YMCA, which is the Positive Alternative to School Suspensions.
Yep.
And they have a program. I know that they've talked about referrals of students. So that might be good news.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. Okay, so we will look at this again on September 10th and perhaps receive more information from Dr. Kushing.
Ms. Abel,
Yes.
just in the whole, like, getting up to speed, knowing what our community does, we do participate in the risky behavior survey that's in the news recently, not for good reason. And we have our Department of Health does usually on some cadence that I don't quite remember, they do a information night where they really offer a lot of education, especially for parents, around how do you know if your child's vaping, how do you know if your child's participating in any of these things that are probably not good for their health. And so maybe you being aware of those things might influence how you would want to see this policy change, because maybe we want to name those other community partners and the things that we do.
I appreciate that.
Okay, Dr. Mackenzie DeFranza.
Thank you. I'm wondering if by being too specific about the partnerships, whether we're going to make this policy subject to too many changes. So should our partnerships change? Should our pathways change? I think we don't need to be specifically naming partners necessarily, but maybe we can find a way to acknowledge that, maybe clarify what discipline could mean. I think we're also inclined to think of discipline as being punishment, whereas discipline is intentionally about learning. Now, how that happens, right? It's lots of ways, but I guess I don't think it's mutually exclusive to use the word disciplinary and to imply that we're also going to be offering treatment or interventions and that type of thing, but maybe it might make this feel better if we perhaps add some clarification about what that might look like. Or like, for example, a student may be referred to a diversion program or something like that, but I think the purpose of discipline oftentimes may not have the intended effect, is what you're suggesting, right? But ideally, it's to educate and to change behavior. And I think how we're going to do that, maybe we expand on that a little bit. But I don't know that I would feel comfortable naming specific programs that we have right now, because that might shift, and then that might mean we then have to change the actual wording of the policy. That's just my thoughts on that one.
Thanks. I think that's very valid. I think one of the takeaways I will have for our next meeting also is that this is just one of many substance-related policies in our policy manual. And I'm noticing now there's not cross-references to some of the additional items in the student section and in the staff section. So I will see to it that we figure out if there are cross-references, because some of those policies might also have some of those examples without the necessary specificity. Ms. Visnick.
So I wish clarification on whether you expect the policy chair to go chase that, or whether you expect the curriculum chair that has this policy under their umbrella to, who's doing that work? I would hate to see duplication of effort.
I was offering, but if either
Oh, hallelujah.
one of you of the standing committees, I will take that offer. Okay, so I will take that action, sorry. Okay, I think we're done with this for the moment, and I've misplaced our agenda. There we go. Flipping to our second page, the only remaining item for the evening is a motion that the chair is now making to vote to meet in executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, for the purposes 7 and 3. Purpose 7 is to review and approve executive session meeting minutes from our executive session meeting. It's listed as June 11th and August 20th, but I'm informed we already approved June 11th. So August 20th, 2025, which was our meeting of last week. And purpose 3 is to discuss strategy with respect to and in preparation for collective bargaining with the Beverly Teachers Association Units A, B, C, AFSCME Local 2894, the AFSA, and any individual contracts, because an open discussion may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee. The chair has made that motion.
Second.
Thank you, Jeffrey Silva. And we do need to conduct a roll call vote. The time is 8:09 p.m. Mayor Cahill.
Yes.
Kim Coelho is absent. Kenan Mackenzie DeFranza.
Yes.
Karen Robinson.
Yes.
Jeffrey Silva.
Yes.
Lorinda Visnick.
Yes.
And I'm Rachel Abel, 6-0 with 1 absent. The motion is passed. The time is 8:10. I'll restate for the record that a vote has been made to meet in executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, for purpose 7 and 3, and we will not be returning to open session. Thank you, BevCam. Thank you for those that are joining us from home and watching from home. Have a great night.